Hey everyone, today we're going to work on text fields. So we'll create a single view application, let's call it text field fun, and we will get started. Usually we've been building upon the same app, but this time we'll just start with something different so it doesn't get too confusing. We'll turn off our landscape mode because it doesn't really matter for now, and we'll begin. We'll begin like normal by changing the color of our view. And I mean, this is just personal preference. You can leave it as white or use whatever color you feel like. I kind of like to play around with them just to see what kind of feels good at the moment. So after we've chosen our color, we're going to go ahead and add a label. So we'll scroll down and drag a label over into our view. I always like to center things, but I mean, you obviously don't have to do that. Go ahead and change it to, we'll increase the size a little bit first, just so that it'll show up a little bit better when we view it. I like to center it also. Choose whatever size you kind of want. Bigger is usually better for these simple tutorials since there's not really much going on the screen. Again, kind of adjust it, and we're ready to add more to our view. So we'll go ahead and grab another label and put it try to center it again. This label is going to be the label that's actually going to change depending on what we enter in the text field. This one I'm not going to make as large, but I mean, you know how to do it, obviously, because I've kind of gone through it, but we'll leave it at about the same size it's at, because just so that it doesn't kind of start wrapping lines if we enter a large amount of text. You can also change the number of lines that this will display so that if you were to enter a really long name or sentence or whatever you enter in a text field, that it would actually wrap around. But we can get more into that later. But I'll leave it at 2 lines just in case. So now we're ready to add the actual text field. So like before, we'll go and grab a text field and drag it into our view. You can increase the size by dragging it with basically like all items on the user interface. Kind of center it if you want. Let's add a button. Do the same thing, kind of make it larger if you want, but like I said, right now this is all kind of just a preference thing. I mean, it'll work just the same if you don't resize anything or change anything. So after we've done increasing the size of the button, we can go ahead and change the name of it. I'm gonna call it say name, because basically after you hit it, it's gonna change our label to say whatever we've entered in the text field. In the text field for a preview, I'm gonna enter name just to kind of give you a guideline for users to enter their name after, or if there's nothing actually there when they first started up. Now we can go ahead and look at what this is gonna look like on a phone. So we can go ahead and go to the preview. As you see, it's kind of off to the side because we didn't set any constraints. So next we're gonna actually, set some constraints, and that just makes sure that everything is gonna look the way it should on the view as it will look on the phone. And now we see it looks good. So now that we see what it's going to look like on the phone, we can go back to actually changing the code. We're gonna look at the view controller. So we'll pull that up. We kind of have a split screen going on, and that's going to help us so that we can actually just drag from the different objects on screen. We're going to do, if you have a magic mouse, you can right click, but also you can just press control and drag from the view into the view controller, and that's going to create a connection for you. There's other ways to do this, but this is the easiest way and the way I usually do. So we'll go ahead and drag over to the view controller, and we just have to give the objects names. And once we have names for the objects in the view controller, all you have to do is call that object and decide what method within that object you want to use, and your code is good to go. So we just dragged from the text field. Now we'll drag from the label. The only one that's different here is going to be the button, because with the button we actually don't really care much about what's going on the button. We just want to know when a user presses it. And so that's actually an action. So we actually have to go to our connections to do this. So I'm going to back out of this and go up to our connections to do it. And like the tutorial before, we just go to touch up inside. We can drag from over in that properties right onto the view controller, and now we have a connection for all of the objects on our view that need connections. So at this point we are basically done. We just have to add code inside of our button method, so such that when a user presses the button, we'll change the label text to equal the actual text field text, which is going to be pretty straightforward. All we have to do is call out the names of our different objects, the one being the text field and one being the label, and we just have to set one equal to the other. And so what we'll do is we'll enter our label name that we created above, and we'll use a period to actually show us what methods are available to this particular label or UI label. And what we want is the text, because that's actually what the user will see. And all we have to do is set that equal to the text field's text. And that is basically the end of this application. It will now take what the user enters in the text field and change it to the label. So now we're ready to basically test our application. So we'll start up the iOS simulator and we'll see what this looks like. Alright, let's start it up. Have a little splash screen. Now we just have to click into our text field and enter a name. Let's start with John. So we just type on this like we would the keyboard, and then we just have to click say name, and we see that our label changed from label to John. And so you can keep playing with this, but each time you change it and press the say name button, you're gonna get the label to change. And that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching.